Hello and welcome to Big Bad Books, the podcast where we read them so you don't have to. I'm Isaac, sounding weirdly formal, I've just noticed.
Really, very formal.
Sound like I was recording like some sort of webinar. But that's not really the tone of the show, as
No,
I
it's
quickly
not.
realised.
Yeah.
Who are you?
I'm Declan.
I guess, do we need to introduce ourselves a bit?
I suppose so.
A small bit.
I think that the reason for your formality
Yeah.
is because we've done a podcast before, haven't we?
We have.
But the thing about it is, it
Kinda
was
irreverent.
very like low on the whole
Yeah.
structure,
Theme.
Yeah, just all of it really.
Audience.
And we thought like this one, we're going to go at it proper.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure that it sounds and feels and looks like a real show.
We followed a PDF called like the Podcaster's 100 Tips You Need to Know for Success Cribsheet.pdf.
You shouldn't admit things like that.
I think
you
people
should
need to
not
know.
admit
They
things
love
like
to have
that.
a peek
That's a
behind
bad sign
the
about
wizard's
us.
curtain. So who are you?
I
You're a
wish I
gamer.
knew. I'm not a
Ultimately.
goddamn gamer. Don't be saying I'm a gamer in the first minute of the pod.
Let's introduce ourselves together then, because I think we could really go down a dark rabbit hole for either of us.
Yeah.
We do a podcast called That's a Shame, and now we do a podcast called Big Bad Books. Any questions? We do a lot of reading. We both have, and indeed do teach English at various points. As you can tell from the great tense structure I used in that sentence just now.
Just a powerful new one.
And we've done some writing professionally as well.
And we met doing English degrees to various degrees.
Yes.
And
What a time,
ever since
dare I
then,
say.
and from then, I mean, since the inception of that friendship, of that, if I may say so, special relationship,
You, Sean?
it's really been a big theme that we just managed to find by hook or by crook some of the worst, just the worst collections of words put together.
It's something we've always enjoyed and has been central to our friendship, and we talked about it on our other podcast, That's a Shame a bunch as well. So we thought, why not spin it off into its own thing? And of course, where better to spin to than with one of the great tomes of the modern age.
Oh,
the
boy.
topic of our first season, it's Ready Player 2.
Yeah.
Ernest Cline's Ready Player 2.
Now, some people may ask,
Go on.
why are you starting Isaac and Declan? Why are you starting with Ready Player 2? Why aren't you starting with Ready Player 1?
The thing is, Ready Player 1, well, you called it an untouchable masterpiece, and so on those grounds I thought best not to attack it.
I certainly called it untouchable. I got 13 pages in and I threw up.
Yeah, I didn't read Ready Player 1. I actually listened to the Will Wheaton audiobook of it, which I hate to say, because I don't know anything about Will Wheaton, but it made it worse.
That will explain that 1,000-yard stare you sometimes have.
Yeah, I do flash back to it. The reason is, Ready Player 1, it's done. It's been and done. It was
People have been there,
2011.
they've done that.
2011.
Are you taking the
Ready Player 1.
piss?
Whereas Ready Player 2 came out very recently, and I'm sad to say I bought it, and I'm sadder to say that we're going to sit through it together from now. Now, today's episode is a little unusual. The traditional structure of this show, well, first of all, it
You
doesn't
can't
exist.
say traditional.
Yeah. First of all, not only does it not exist as a tradition, but it doesn't even exist as a concept because we haven't fully decided it. But basically, we're going to do a chapter, an episode. Episode's going to be fortnightly on a Sunday. Make sure you subscribe and review and all that stuff. Love you very much. We're at Big Bad Books on Twitter. Probably shouldn't do plugs at the start, but I'm going to in case we
go
forget.
for it.
But for today, we've already done 3 chapters of this on our other show. And so rather than direct people there or do a weird thing of like editing that together, we're just going to bang through the first 3 chapters. As you can see from the episode length, well done us. We did such a great job of doing it so concisely. I can't congratulate
How
us
optimistic.
enough. But yeah, we're going to be, this is slightly more whirlwind a tour than will be the case in future.
Yeah.
I think the plan is moving forwards to find a kind of theme or lens through which to view or analyse or understand what's particularly
Or mock.
fucked up and bad about whichever chapter we're on that week.
What would you do if you read a chapter
And it's amazing.
and it's really good?
I'll be honest about it. I'll change the title of the show to Big Good Books.
Wow.
Small Good Books, because it's only a single chapter. But no, we're going to be honest. And really, it's important to me that we get across that, of course, we're going to be making fun of this book.
We are going to
There's
be
a lot
taking
to make
the
fun
piss.
of.
Yeah.
But it's not intended to be a mean-spirited attack on Ernest, who I don't know. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is, have a bit of fun, read a book, and God knows I need to do that because the pandemic's really put me off the whole concept of staring at a page.
And we'll tell you how to get in touch later, but we would love to hear from you, whether you love these books, whether you hate these books too, whether maybe you're indifferent. Maybe Ernest
that would be a
Cline just
boring email.
leaves you level. But I want to hear it nonetheless, because I want to know if you're out there.
BBB@shame.city or
Is that it?
Big Bad Books on Twitter.
That's may I say it's concise.
It is. Without further ado, I think it's about time that with one more plug for the URL shame.city/books if you'd like to tell a friend, it's time that we get a little flashback to what happened in Ready Player One. We've written a summary, précis, so that, you don't have to wade through it. And I use the word wade advisedly.
That's really interesting, because the first word because Isaac very kindly said we wrote it was him, but I'm gonna have a little read through, mainly because I have not read Ready Player One.
Did you see the movie?
I have not seen the movie either.
Yeah,
I just
amazing.
could not bring myself to do so.
The Shining bit
I
was
watched
good.
you made me watch that bit, and I'll admit that it was
good.
It was okay, but it was only really okay because in a way that I think Ernest would kind of honestly quite like. It was only okay because I sat there thinking about The Shining.
Yeah.
Like
it was just a reference.
I still do not know what happened in that scene.
There's ghosts doing ballroom dancing.
Yeah, but that's in The Shining as well. So
yeah, but these ones are floating above a big void, so that's good. Also, that bit's not in the book, just to be clear.
Yeah. Oh well. You said it was the bit in the movie that was really good.
Yeah.
But it's the bit that's not in the book.
Sometimes these things happen.
Strange. Yeah. So I haven't seen the movie, and I haven't seen it. So this is going to be a nice roundup for me as well. Really.
Yeah, absolutely.
I say nice. I'm probably going to hate every little bit. Wade Owen Watts. That's the name of our character, and we've been asked to check the initials, and I just think
there's a fun secret there.
Yeah, we're not
an Easter egg.
We're not going to expose that. We're not going to spoil it.
It's a thinker.
He's young, and he's gamer. He's a gamer, and he's living in a dystopian 2045, which is so close. That's really soon, where the world is all shit. So he lives in like a big trailer park slum that I believe is actually just trailer parks that are stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, it's got a huge amount of verticality.
Yeah, that's very like futuristic. It's very novel. Everyone's lives suck, and so instead they go onto this huge VR platform that is called the Oasis, and it was invented by somebody called James Halliday, and he's dead.
Poor one out.
So it's like just it's like Second Life, it's VR chat, it's Oculus Rift, but it's like better than that.
It's all of them at once.
It's all. Are you joking?
At least.
That's pretty cool,
Times
to be
it by
honest.
2.
And is this... can we be expecting this soon?
Not a chance.
Oh, okay.
Not after this cautionary tale.
Okay, so Wade has an avatar, his online avatar, and he's called Parzival, because that was one of the Grail Knights, and Ernest Cline, where he's very smart. He knows
a lot of
He
history
knows a
and
lot of things.
Yeah.
He's seen, and I do just mean like into his field of view have come so many things. And he is not
tell us
afraid to list them. Yeah. So that's the name of one of the Grail Knights. And so basically Halliday has said he's left these Easter eggs all over the fucking gaff. And the person who finds them all wins, and they get the whole world.
Yeah, they get the whole of the Oasis, the company. It's like Willy Wonka on
You just
steroids.
become like God.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to read this bit about the name of the people who hunt.
I'll just jump in.
No, there's no need.
Wade and his team of egg hunters, or gunters, a word that is entirely of Ernest's own derivation.
You didn't have to say that, to be honest.
They exploit his total lack of character flaws to beat everyone at everything, because all of the frictionless challenges relate directly to things that he's already established in the narrative as being the world-leading expert on.
Yeah, he only knows those things. And it's similar because that's very similar to what Ernest knows.
And also to what it's like to be just a person. Like I don't know about you, but I only know like one thing, but the thing I know, I fucking know it.
And what happens is sometimes I'll just be sitting in the living room and Isaac will be in here in his room.
And I get a text where he's like, you up for gunting? I'm like, Declan, please.
But sometimes I just hear him muttering and he'll just say, like out loud, he'll just go, Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
And then he'll chuckle to himself because he's remembered.
It's fun to remember sometimes.
It is fun to remember. So, like, one of the challenges is beating a video game that coincidentally he's just the best person in the world at.
Yeah.
Then he has to, I believe, I thought that it was act out a scene.
No.
But then
Imagine that, but
kindly
for a whole
reminded me that he acts out the entirety of a movie called War Games.
Yeah. And this is the bit
word for word.
Yeah, that was subbed out from the film because you
Why was
couldn't
that?
Feasibly have the movie War Games acted out in the movie Ready Player
You
One.
couldn't, probably for legal reasons, but also just
Artistic,
moral reasons.
yeah.
It would be too boring.
It would suck. And in the book, however, it's a thrilling read. If you can believe such a thing.
I can't. So yeah. Anyway,
He knows that very
he
well,
knows
doesn't
that. He just rattles that off. Don't worry. It wasn't even a struggle, to be honest.
It actually isn't.
He
Yeah,
just
gets
like,
over that
yeah,
very easily.
that's done.
He's like with every challenge that arrives. There's like you can imagine Ernest picturing the camera like pans to a wry smile.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I got this one. I fucking play joust.
He's got like a whole team of people. He's got like this squad of all his friends, and they're just sat there like, okay, fine. So his journey culminates with a big fight.
It's a fight that involves like everything. Like there's a Transformer, there's a Mickey Mouse. There's actually not a Mickey Mouse, but like that kind of idea.
Yeah, he's the one they couldn't get.
Yeah, pretty much. There's a Dumbledore probably. There's a World of Warcraft in there, and they're all just having a fucking huge fight.
So having had the easiest possible, of course. Yeah. So having had like the easiest possible path to victory. He's learnt fuck all. Yeah. He's just kind of like stumbled his way through his favourite movie and game.
Yeah.
He wins. He gets to meet his hot girlfriend.
Yeah.
Whose name is Artemis.
But he is a 3.
No, now
that's gamer.
That is pretty cool. Now she's got a character flaw.
Yeah.
And that character flaw is that she's really hot, but she does have a birthmark.
Yeah.
But now listen to this. Our hero.
Now he's only briefly taken aback.
Yeah, it's only like a shot. He only does a minor sort of flinch.
Yeah, he's only sick like in his own handbag.
Yeah, but he manages to see past this insignificant birthmark to the really hot person.
Yeah.
Who has it?
Who is also just like
and
so nice
nobly falls in love with her anyway.
It's really.
And then do they make out? Is that
probably
there?
Yeah.
Basically, it fucking sucks.
And on to Ready Player 2 we go.
Oh, good.
With that in mind.
I love that we do this to ourselves. Can I just say?
It is good. So, we've got 3 chapters. We've got however many minutes that is. Here's the scheme. For today, we're just going to be kind of rattling through. I want to get the plot across because what Ernest is all about is plot, and what he's not about is anything else at all.
No. Well, I don't think he's even really about plot.
He's about plot.
Plot is a mere vehicle
for
listing things.
Yeah. For Ernest, the plot is just the washing line upon which you hang the whole of the 1980s as a decade.
The pegs of nostalgia.
That's lovely. So, Ready Player 2. It picks up almost immediately after the events of Ready Player 1, which is, now that we've read 3 chapters, a really fucking wild choice, because within those 3 chapters, as you're about to see, we oscillate wildly off into the far-flung future.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say that having had to read a couple of reviews for a later feature, that does not slow up.
Oh, okay. It's going to just increase.
It's just going to keep on going.
It's really exhausting.
You'll be pleased to hear that.
So we pick up. It's 9 days after there was a huge, just like he won the battle. He gets the egg.
Yeah.
It's like, you are the Oasis now, my boy, and whatever.
And who gives him? The
hologram of James Halliday, who's like the kind of Dumbledore,
right?
Gandalf,
but he can't
figure.
Why can't he just run things?
Who
then? The hologram. If he's like there and he's
no, because it's pre-recorded, mate. Don't be
that's
fucking
fine.
silly.
Wow,
okay?
wow. Well, I promise.
This is a well fleshed out.
I swear.
Wade, that's his name.
Yeah.
Is vibing in his corner office. You've got to specify corner because
you could call him Wowen.
Wowen is in the corner office. He's vibing it up in GSS, which is the company he now owns.
G4S.
GSS, Gregarious
I can't believe
Simulation Systems.
It's called what?
Gregarious Simulation Systems.
Why?
Very good name. This is the Oasis company he now runs with his buddies for good and, as we established, well-deserved plot reasons. He earned it, and that's always important in a story.
I went to an interview to run Amazon.
Oh, yeah?
And
congrats on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I got called in. It was all fine. I had to play Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped.
Yeah.
But then...
You're an expert.
I didn't know the entire script of Casablanca, and so they kicked me to the curb.
Lazy. We learn briefly about the other 3. The other 3 are his teammates, his girlfriend Artemis, and 2 others who are broadly irrelevant to the plot.
Good.
And really sidelined. And here's weird. Also, the ethnic minority characters. Just an interesting.
You're just throwing that out there. Yeah.
An observation.
There's probably. I think you've probably got your tinfoil hat on there, but
he logs back onto the Oasis for the first time since he'd won, because he was presumably just so fucking amped up.
He was so fucking rich.
Yeah.
He was having to wade through all that wade through.
Nice, he keeps doing it. He logs on with his quote brand new top of the line Oasis immersion rig, a Habishaw OIR 9400.
Boring.
And this begins in Ready Player 2. The trend only included the quote because it begins an interminable lust that Ernest has for naming everything in really long, boring and irrelevant ways.
Are they going to like fit together later to be sort of code?
Thank you for asking. They're not.
Oh, okay.
No, there's one that's a reference, and we'll get to that because that's.
Okay. Now I'm excited for that one.
When he logs on, picture this scene, if you will.
Yeah,
you're logging into your Second Life account or whatever, your
typing
Habbo
in the
Hotel.
password.
There are a billion people there who have just been waiting in real world time for 9 days to do the meme of and that boy was Albert Einstein, and everybody claps. He arrives. He like right back into the Oni. The Oasis, and everyone is like, "Fucking yeah, Wade!" They just know he's the big boss now because it would have been like the news and stuff.
Could no one have like paged him or something to be like,
No,
hey,
they don't
Wade,
have like a friend system. To
hey,
be like,
Wade,
you online.
like, could you pop in?
No.
There's some people here to see you.
He does this convenient thing that I think is very realistic. Because imagine you've just been in the Oasis doing this quest forever. Like, presumably when you'd want it.
That's difficult to do because it's so well fleshed out. I couldn't really.
But also, counterpoint, it's so well described in immersive text and prose that you basically felt like you were there.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I've changed my mind.
He, in this way that I can only describe as organically, returns to the scene of the final events of Ready Player One. He teleports up to Anorak's secret office, which is where he was bequeathed the Oasis in the previous book. And this is
Anorak.
Anorak is the name of James Halliday, who is the guy who ran the company. It's his avatar. He was called Anorak, and he appears as a kind of Radagast-esque wizard.
This stuff fucking sucks.
Good. It's very good. He teleports back there in the way that I think anyone would. They'd be desperate to go back to the stuffy office, and bang, there's some kind of inciting incident that just hits us in the face. The inscription that he finds on this egg that he had been given, but didn't notice previously, or maybe it hadn't opened or some shit.
Okay, yeah.
Tells him to go to part of the office that he is in already in the real world. Which really sets up the handiness with which everything is just kind of given to Wade on a plate.
Yeah.
It's like, go to the place you already are. Be good at the game you already are. Do that film you already know.
Go to the place where you already are with the things you already have to do the things you already know.
According to the interactive building directory on my phone, what a fun 3-word thing.
That's good, phone. Yeah.
The 13th floor was where the GSS archives were located.
Map. I might have said map.
You'd have been fucking playing yourself. Yeah. Of course, Halliday had put it there. In one of his favourite TV shows, Max Headroom, Network 23's hidden research and development lab was located on that 13th floor. And the 13th floor was also the title of an old sci-fi film about virtual reality.
No.
Released in 1999.
No, you
right
can't.
on the heels of both The Matrix
and
Existence.
You can't.
You won't stop.
You have to pick. No. You have to pick the reference. You do.
He follows the mind map.
You can't say. He's clearly gone, like, he's clearly mentioned Max Headroom and then been like, some people are going to say that's for normies. Yeah. So I'm going to say, but also, like, another thing I know.
It's so tangential.
And more on the subject of the number 13.
It's just,
and then, like, and more on the subject of 1999.
Yeah, just, like, chronologically relevant. It's like, a film called The 13th Floor was released.
And also, Keanu Reeves looks like my dad.
He has to go to this place. He sprints, which I found very funny, and all the people who work there are just looking at him like, "Who's this prick?" Like,
I would bully him in the workplace.
He puts in a code, which is a reference to an 80s song, which is very cool.
That is good.
Inside, he finds the same silver egg. What? Confusing. But there's no inscription on this one. It does have Touch ID, which is huge.
Right.
And it opens to reveal inside, not a digital yoke, a headset.
You said that it has Touch ID.
Yeah.
That opened when he touched it.
Yeah.
But how did it know that it was looking for his touch?
Technology, yeah.
No, don't.
Absolutely.
What do you mean technology?
Absolutely technology.
What do you mean?
100% tech.
That's not tech. Hang on a minute. You had a fat go at me earlier for asking why the AI couldn't run the thing, and now you're telling me that this magic egg knows his fingerprint even though they didn't know he was going to win.
It just works. There's an app for that.
Oh, well, that's good.
It's some kind of Oasis peripheral in the vein of the nunchuk controller for the Wii. He puts it on, whoosh, and Halliday appears. And basically, what happens now is that he watches a video of Halliday telling you the plot of what's going to happen in Ready Player 2.
Oh, that's good.
Or that's what I thought the first time we read it, but now that we've read the next 2 chapters, it seems to be
irrelevant.
Yeah. But it certainly sets it up.
Maybe this was like an early draft and he just got very distracted.
Yeah, maybe it's subversive. Maybe he's like playing with the genre.
Oh, maybe he's playing with us.
He probably is. He almost certainly is. He basically says that he filmed this video shortly before he died, which is also when he was filming all the ones in Ready Player 1. He had a very few.
No wonder he died. Yeah, he worked himself to the bone.
He was a busy guy on death's door. And he says this device is an Oni, which is like an Oasis neural interface, I think.
I'm just imagining, like, by the time it's like Ready Player 5, and his recordings are literal, like, deathbed in his last seconds.
Riddle. War Games!
Prize!
As soon as he mentions the Oni, Ernest Cline does this kind thing of just telling you how to pronounce it. Like, he wants you to be clear. Like, it's not the O-N-I. You say Oni, like Tony.
Like, in his defense,
Yeah.
imagining the sort of fans that Ernest Cline must have,
he's
probably just saving himself not only a kind of culture civil war within his own fan base, but also just saving himself and his PA just a lot of emails.
Yeah. It transpires effectively, and this is a point which I'm afraid is going to be laboured to the ground, that all that the Oni is, well, I won't undersell it. What the Oni is the Oasis, right? So it's a VR world, but now you can interact on a sensory level. You can touch stuff, feel stuff.
Could you not touch things before?
You could, but I mean, you won't actually touch anything, right? Now it somehow like fucks with your brain, so you feel the sensation of things.
What was the like jeopardy in the last one then?
But you could have your character killed, which would mean that you had to like respawn, and it would make you slower to do the. But the actual jeopardy was that there was an evil company that were tracking him down.
Oh,
and were trying to like.
Okay.
They like crushed his nan or something. Like they did, right? They pushed over some towers onto his nan or his aunt.
What, like maliciously, like aiming for her?
Yeah, it was like a warning shot. You come after our digital egg, JPEG. We'll flatten your nan.
Unlike Wade, she hadn't seen many movies. She hadn't seen Prometheus. She was running straight away from the falling tower.
In other words, tell me, just stop me, give me like a beep when you're like buzzing in to say that you understand what the Oni is.
Okay.
In other words, the Oni allows you to relive moments of other people's lives, to see the world through their eyes, hear it through their ears,
beep,
smell it through their nose, taste it with their tongue. Feel it through their skin.
We went for the whole five.
It's so
the entire
good.
gamut of senses.
It super feels like when you're teaching 11 plus, and they do like some people do this like checklist of all the things they have to.
Yeah, simile, metaphor, imagery. Yeah,
and it's also just so patronising. Like we fucking get it.
I kind of oscillate between thinking he does this because he knows that he's probably got some very stupid fans who may well need it laid out, and also then like going vastly back to the other side of that wave and thinking he himself is just such a div that if he didn't write all five, he himself wouldn't be certain.
Yeah, like he hasn't written it into
couldn't
existence.
be artistically consistent if he didn't write it there.
Imagine if like he'd only written 4 and then the whole like plot revolved around the fact that he
couldn't smell.
Yeah. There is now an interesting ethical quandary where Halliday is like, what should we do? Should we release this or not? Because it's going to change the world. And if you stop to imagine it, this would change the world, right? Everyone's going to stay inside. They'll be fucking in the Oni. They'll be fruiting in the Oni. They'll be doing all sorts. They'll be dining.
Yeah. What's the downside?
I think the downside is that it would take people out of reality, and that seems to me.
Isn't reality really bad though?
It is, yeah. In both our world and his.
Get it out there then.
But
I'd say quickly as possible.
Halliday is like, well, you're on Wade's side, then that's good to know. You're a pro Wade.
Well, yeah, I always have been.
You're a Wadeist.
Yeah. Don't say that.
Cline does this cool thing of setting up this problem, and then some authors, they make you kind of work for the solution, but Cline's like, fuck those guys. We'll solve this immediately. In basically the same paragraph.
Right.
He's just deciding that, we're going to release it, definitely, for sure. Like, there's not even a question. The video deletes itself, which is very cool. There's a very strange reference that I remember us talking about as to how this, there's always this question of like, why wasn't this mentioned in Ready Player One? Like, it's a question that comes up a lot. Why weren't Horcruxes mentioned in any of the other books?
Yeah.
She hadn't thought of them, obviously.
Yeah.
And here, the question of like, wow, this is nuts. Like, why didn't that come up at all in Ready Player One? Like, any of this stuff is answered by a really, really contrived plot point involving a secret lab of scientists who were never allowed to interact with each other, so none of them knew the full scale of the project.
Okay.
And also, interestingly, and I don't know if this is optional or if it's something you have to do in science and big tech.
Right, yeah.
I don't work in that field myself.
No, neither do I. But
the exploitation of the disabled community, where they are being used, quote, as let me just find the exact quote, quote, willing human guinea pigs to test all of these things on. Now,
I can think of some regimes that have done that.
To be fair to Wade or his predecessor Halliday, they have a noble goal here. They want to sort of create like a world in which there is no disability. The like theory that it's the world which disables people who have different abilities. I think the idea that Ernest Cline is going for is like, you know, we could create neural interfaces for prosthetic limbs, or we could, you know, you could be able to experience what it's like to climb a mountain even if you were bedbound. But the bold choice to include the kind of guinea pig angle, it's an interesting
kind of animalistic imagery. It's also like, I kind of understand, but if you've already set up your world to be like so abysmal, dangerous, and just, may I say from the sounds of it, inaccessible, that if you are then going to offer this, it's somewhat of a Hobson's choice for the people that you're offering it to. It does make the willing, the informed and kind of like independent consent element seem, I'm just going to say, a touch questionable.
Okay, well, everyone's a cynic. He goes over this plot point 400 times, right? Like he's have you ever been to? Well, you definitely have, so I've been to them with you. Like a bad play where it's like hitting you over the head with like, be like, so you're saying this is a question of morality, and another character be like, yeah, what I'm saying is this is a question
of morality,
of ethics, of right and wrong, of good and bad, of God and death, and it just goes on and on. He does that thing with like, I had such a decision to make. I can't tell you what the decision was.
One fucking hell of a decision. I had a choice A, I had a choice B.
The decision is getting so hectic that he comes out of the Oni, which there's this interesting little plot nugget, which is like, you can only stay in it for so long, that I'm certain is going to be set up for something later, before it like powers off. And he sprints around his office again, this time carrying an egg. And again, the people in his office are just looking at him like, who is our new boss? It is a little child who sprints around.
All the people like who are like one or two rungs below Halliday on the ladder, just like
this fucking guy, I tell you.
Just like seeing how
45 years I gave to Gregarious,
seeing how sturdy the windows are.
And then chapter 1 ends. Sorry, this is actually called chapter cutscene. I don't know if I said that up. It's called cutscene. It's not numbered.
That's very clever because it's like a game.
It's really sick.
I wouldn't have thought of that either. I'd have said something like normie, like prologue.
Yeah. Or chapter 1 maybe.
Fuck me, right?
As the timestamp faded away, it was replaced by a short message just 3 words long. The last thing I would see before I left the real world and entered the virtual one.
Don't say it.
But they weren't the 3 words that I was used to seeing.
I'm so upset.
Like every other Oni user to come, was greeted.
You don't have to say this.
A new message,
because we all know what it's going to be.
Created to welcome those visitors who had adopted his new technology. Ready, player, 2. Chapter 0000.
Yeah, you're right. You got me at the end there.
It pulled back.
Yeah.
In chapter 000, a chapter we're going to have to whiz through for the purposes of boredom.
Decency.
He goes back into the Oasis.
Right.
Everything looked the same as before, but it felt completely different.
Oh, wow. That's like disclaimer time.
Yeah, it's super.
Like, he didn't write that himself. His lawyer wrote that to put in the book just in case.
This big theme, which has already begun, but now begins in earnest.
Here he goes.
In which he's doing this having your cake and eating it too thing with his own book, where he's like, I think we talked about it as the concept of power creep in games, where it's like, if you release an expansion pack where now everyone can jump higher, then the next time you have to release one where they can jump even higher. Or, I mean, I don't know what game this is. Maybe make another mechanic. Maybe like a sword or just walking.
Can they go forwards? No. Are they jumping on anything?
In anything. But the idea that, you know, he at the same time is simultaneously trying to big up Ready Player One and be like, that book fucking ruled, right? Like the fucking stakes in it. And at the same time being like, but this time it was all different. But not that the last thing was bad.
It was very, very similar, but let me tell you, different.
Similar in all the ways you liked. Different.
Don't ask yet.
In ways that are unclear. I could feel it on my skin and my face and my hair, he says in a very weird...
Oh, why? Stop.
Basically...
Well, he too has the little checklist. He just ticked off his power of 3.
I mean, this goes on. The whole of this starting chapter does feel like you've set it as like an exercise, because he spends pages, you'll recall we went through them, where he's just touching and sensing stuff.
Oh, yeah.
In like outrageous levels of detail, where if someone was like... I imagine that whoever reads this audiobook, God bless Will Wheaton if he has to do this one too, they must at some point be like, can we change what can we just cut this bit down? Because it, like, when I was just reading it in my head, I was tired. It just is an interminable list of, and then I felt it, and then I licked it, and then I thought, can I fucking sniff it? You bet I could.
Sniff it like no one's business.
The it in this case is mostly fruit, which eventually he squeezes so hard that it makes craters in the surface. Because lest we forget, Wade is a fucking Chad.
He's not one of these incels. Well, what is the fucking status at this point?
Fucked once, I believe.
Fucked once?
Yeah, he's dicked down.
Okay,
Wade fucks. Well, no, fucked.
Okay, yeah.
As we will come on to.
Wade fucked is a really bleak summary, isn't it?
He, just to whiz through, describes drinking potions as, quote, a senseless pantomime.
What?
Compared to what you can now do.
Wow.
It's such a mad way of describing it. He's like, in the old days when we just sort of held them up to our mouth and then it gave you hit points, a senseless pantomime. There are 2 pages of him I've just written, just talking about his senses and how he can feel fruit sliding down his esophagus. And he's doing the thing of like listing everything from the 80s, except subbed out the 80s for things that you can experience as a human with sensory capabilities.
Well, he managed to broaden the horizon significantly.
You can't feel pain in the Oni, which feels like a really significant detail that has only just been mentioned, but which is really like hand waved.
Makes it boring.
Yeah.
Doesn't he like bite down on his own tongue, but not very hard?
Yeah.
And then he shoots himself.
He shoots himself.
Yeah, fuck. I remember that. Like a real raising of the stakes.
It's like, well, if the tongue doesn't work,
it's really interesting that like that he clearly is, and by he you can choose who I mean.
Yeah.
Just extremely dumb to think that like I tried the biting down on the tongue, that didn't work. The next step to check would be to commit full suicide.
Actually. Just to confuse the matters here, and maybe this is again a question of Ernest kind of playing his cards close to his chest, or maybe just not being tied down to anything.
Sitting on the fence.
He feels mild pain when he shoots himself. Having previously said there was no pain.
Okay, so there was no pain, but if there would be lots of pain, there's a bit of pain.
Yeah. A giddy laugh escaped me, he said. One of my least favourite phrases.
I hate people who use
kind
the
of passive voice.
Yeah, awful.
You remember this? He jumps out of the window to fly around, quote,
like
Superman. Because I can't imagine flying without.
Yeah, if he hadn't said that, I'd have assumed that he was just sort of like straight,
a sparrow,
like just standing up straight, like an unanimated
or
character. Yeah.
This is an incredible sentence, guys. Like, just pack up.
Is this sentence of the week? A feature of the week?
Sentence of the week. Sure, it is.
Okay.
This is just emblematic, just as a way of setup of everything that is like. Ernest has a gift for making something so obvious. Maybe he should be a teacher, because he can make things so obvious and then manage to go beyond what I previously understood to be the glass ceiling of obviousness. He just crashes through it like Charlie Bucket in his little elevator. When he says things like, as he's flying around and probably still remembering the feeling of apple sliding down his gullet into his gully works.
He's like bleeding digital blood all over the streets.
Maniacally, he says, I suddenly felt like anything was possible. Because now it clearly was. It's just so lame.
I felt like anything was possible. The reader stops. Wow, it'd be amazing
if that were the case.
That could be
if
incredible.
Only,
what an amazing thing to find out through the course of this. It was. Oh, okay, cool. We'll move on to the next thing.
With that?
That and it all felt the same but wasn't, or what the fuck it was.
The next little section is, I know it's one of your favourites. This is where he starts some pretty lewd experimentation, it's fair to say.
Oh, yeah.
Listen to this,
I remember.
to this normal way of describing a human.
Okay.
He enters some pre-made simulations, because basically, not to bore you, it's probably a bit late, but the Oni can either like simulate, being in VR, or you can like go in and watch memories that have like sensory data attached.
Go in paragliding or something.
Exactly, yeah. Skydiving is one of the examples he gives.
Yeah, skydiving, which like is the most pointless experience when you can just fly.
Like Superman.
Well, yeah. Does he say that you have to fly like Superman?
No. I think
you could fly like who else flies?
Wind.
Iron Man.
Yeah, like Iron Man, maybe.
Batman, he doesn't fly, but he does glide.
Yeah, you
quite
could do
nicely.
the Bat glide.
Yeah.
So he enters one of these pre-made simulations, which some of them have quite kind of naughty names, guys.
Oh, go on.
I hope you're sitting down.
Tell me.
I'll tell you them momentarily, because first of all, I want to tell you what
Cheating
happens.
on a test. Biz.
He becomes, quote, someone wearing a bikini. someone with breasts.
What?
I was a woman.
Oh!
It's just a very weird way of describing it.
Nice sexual binary there, Klein.
I stopped when I reached a series of files with names like, and this is all caps, sex-m-f.oni, sex-f-f.oni, and sex-non-binary.oni.
An interesting omission from the list. They didn't code that in.
They actually coded it out.
It kept springing up naturally. They have like a constant bot that's just on the watch.
Not possible.
Any M-M,
There's a big
that get
lockdown.
absolute delete.
I wasn't ready for any of that. I was still truly, madly, deeply in love with Samantha, which is Artemis's
What
real
a
name.
fucking loser.
And I was still, and this is such a funny verb, I was still reeling from losing my virginity to her just a few days
This
earlier.
does, though, smack of, I suppose at some point in the course of this, we'll have to read it on the show as well, the very, very bad poem that he wrote, like porn for nerd. Oh, well.
It's terrible. We won't have to read it. It sucks so bad.
The premise of which is like, I don't want to watch regular porn with like women and fucking in it. I want to watch a woman who likes to read books.
Who has heard of A Star War.
Yeah.
And also, and really key to the poem is, and also...
Will also fuck me.
Yeah, well, and even more key is that also, Ernest Klein, I hate those women that I mentioned before, and they disgust me.
Those other women...
It's not like trying
women
to empower people.
No, women who have sex
Foul.
are awful.
That was really the vibe of the poem.
Yeah, and here, he's got kind of this... It's similar. It is a huge incel vibe, right? Of like I don't want to like dirty myself with
exactly
these
the
virtual women. I want to. I've got like my one trad wife. She's called Art3ness. She does all the cooking and cleaning.
Blog.
Yeah,
She writes recipes, but only 80% of the way down.
She wears
the page.
only gingham.
I didn't want to be unfaithful to her. I figured that cheating was cheating, whether it was live or it was Memorex, which is the cool name for what's going on.
Thanks for asking. It's not.
He fucks off out of the Oasis, and in another classic, like, Ernest doesn't want to pin himself down to anything too specific. Over an hour had passed, which seemed about right. It's like, yeah, that's probably about how long that was.
I kind of low-key really like that, of just like, am I going to check? Am I going to clap? No.
It's probably around that.
Seems fine.
I'm going to skip over this whole bit because I've already talked about it, about how he basically asks a bunch of questions about, like, how did this get made? Where did it come from? And then answers them immediately with the stuff I've already mentioned.
It was with the sort of, like, destruction of civil liberties.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Halliday's helping people with disabilities. He doesn't profit from it, but he then describes them as willing human guinea pigs.
Good.
And Wade didn't talk about this before because it was only relevant, this whole, like, Oni tech to people who are, quote, severely physically disabled and willing to undergo invasive and possibly fatal brain surgery.
Oh, good.
That was the kind of target demo.
Yeah, that was all we were doing.
Yeah, it's like
all we were doing was just cutting people open who had no other options in this sort of like dystopia.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I want to create a mood here.
I'm assuming that, like, I know that we're having to go through quite quickly because we've got lots of stuff to get through in the episode, but like I'm assuming that Ernest kind of extends that into a long sort of like, it's like a long drawn out moral argument that he has to have with himself, a sort of Socratic debate.
I guess it depends on how you
him
define
and
long.
Yeah, like probably at least 3 or 4 pages.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not quite as long as that. I mean, it's a popular fiction. Like he's got a lot to get.
He sort of like, but he weighs the.
It was ours, says Wade, to bury or reveal, referring to this technology, and it's now that moral quandary comes back because.
I hadn't forgotten it.
It's time for them to decide, like, what do we do?
Yeah.
And they have a vote, right?
Well,
this is
like,
all of the gunters.
Frankly, at this point, if you've killed as many people to make it, like, you might as well put it out there.
We didn't make our decision lightly.
Okay.
We weighed all of the pros and cons.
I'm assuming again this is pages and pages of debate between them.
He could get into the pros and cons, but he doesn't bother.
He just lets you know that there are pros and cons.
We weighed all of the pros and cons that I won't tell you about. Then, after a heated debate, the 4 of us held a vote. The ayes had it, and just like that, we changed the course of human history forever. Bang. Last Tuesday.
Sure, fine, okay.
Flash forward. Now starts the rocketing of this book forwards in time.
Like, we joked about it earlier, but like it genuinely is the case that the plot does not matter to Ernest. The plot could be literally anything. It just, of course, happens to be this because it's the same plot as the last one, because it's the only plot that he's seen. But like the plot plot gets no attention. Character gets seemingly no attention.
Yeah.
It is just a vehicle for making up some boring tech that's already been made up in most science fiction.
Essentially so.
And a bunch of references.
They are now selling these as cheaply as possible, 1 million units on day one, for example.
Sure.
And then after a random amount of time...
Nice round number.
It happened. When they reached 7,777,777 Oni users,
that's cool.
A message appears on the Halliday's own personal
That was
blog.
7 sevens, I don't know if you...
Yeah, I fucking noticed, mate. I'm a perceptive gunter.
Oh, of course.
Seek the 7 shards of the Sirens' soul.
Oh, there's a goblin character.
On the 7 worlds where the Siren once played a role. For each fragment my heir must pay a toll. To once again make the Siren whole. That's the shard riddle. Oh. And it's going to be so incredibly unimportant in the chapters that we've read. It super doesn't come back.
It did not appear. In fact, I seem to recall that, like, despite, it seems like if you say the bit again about, like, paying a toll.
Yeah, the heir has to pay a toll.
Right, so it seems to be that if these things get found, that our boy Wade
gets an arm chopped off.
He gets fucked. He was surprisingly
glib.
really nonplussed
like,
by it all.
Probably not.
He was just like, fine, yeah.
The timing of the riddle's appearance couldn't be a coincidence, he says, after having specified when it arrived. And it wasn't a coincidence and was like down to the single digit encoded. Basically, the Siren is this girl that Halliday was in love with, who is married to his business partner, who's called, I think, Ogden Morrow or something.
Dreadful.
Very cool name.
Hate that.
And this spawns, and you're going to love this, quote, a whole new generation of Gunters.
No! Why would you...
Bang! Before you know it, we've blinked a whole year into the future. They've sold 4 billion of these things, and they've done this big finance bro tech takeover of their competitor IOI, which is the company that made the Hitman games, which I just think he should have checked. Is that a company? Doesn't mean anything.
Amazing.
There were new experiences to download every day.
I took over my rival, Tesco.
Anything and everything you could imagine. You could go anywhere. You just buzz when you're kind of getting the gist.
Oh, I've got it.
Do anything.
No, I know.
Be anyone.
I get it.
It was the most
Stop it, Ernest.
pastime imaginable. Far more addictive than the Oasis had ever been, and that was saying something.
Well, a literal, much better than my last book, Ready Player One.
Except also that was very
Don't
good.
forget, that was very good.
Then there's just another year gone for no reason.
Sure, why
2/3
not?
of the entire world is playing concurrently.
Wade will be dead within pages.
He says anything you can imagine is happening, and then doesn't tell you anything.
Apart
he can
from
imagine.
gay sex.
Yeah,
that is really... We
man-on-man
can't be clear enough about this. That's not happening.
He talks about how extreme his monopoly is. He hand waves the obvious problem of like crime that would occur with like non-consensual, recording other people's things and then reliving them, stuff like that.
Yeah, go on.
Or like revenge porn.
It just doesn't happen, is that it?
Doesn't work.
Oh, okay, well that's good, yeah.
They launched a social media called OniNet to share .oni files, which you won't stop.
What is the
name
point?
of.
What is the point in a social media if
What's
like
the point
the
in
whole
having it in the book?
If
It's
the
so
whole
boring.
thing like is one.
I want you to get some new terminology. We're going to have like a klaxon
I've
for it.
had too much.
There are sims and there are recs. And sims are like simulations. Recs are things that were recorded.
Okay.
And also we need to know the
Where
term
did he get those names
VRL, which is IRL. So the Earl is real life. People are like, I'll see you in the Earl. Like, oh, should we meet up tomorrow? Do you mean in the Earl? Or do you mean Ito, which is in the Oasis? It's very cool.
Okay.
So recs were recorded in the Earl.
In the Earl. So it's in real life.
Yeah.
But it's
Ito, just Ito in the
not
Oasis.
in the Ito. No. If you say in the Ito, that's like pin number.
People are like, oh my god, look
at this
good.
noob.
So recs were recorded in the Earl and sims were created Ito. He says that instead of following celebrities, you can now become them for a few minutes, which he describes as, quote, exist inside their skin. That would not happen. It's madness.
Is it also not just the plot of being John Malkovich?
Yep. But weirdly,
he doesn't reference
he's
that
allowed
one.
not to because TV and movies are now dead, just like would definitely happen.
Oh, sure.
Like the whole medium is gone. He says there's no such thing as an audience now. Like
that's not
There's no
true.
need to be an audience.
Just stop that.
Something that's existed for the whole span of human history gone in a second.
That's it.
GSS takes 20%.
Or because you can do a simulation of having some tits.
Yeah. GSS takes 20% of all the profit you make when you upload something, so people can watch it Ito. So that's
he's making some money.
Yeah, it's a microtransaction.
Oh, okay, cool, good.
But don't worry, because poor people, they can vibe too. Quote, people don't mind subsisting on dried seaweed and soy protein, soy boys, when they could log on to the OniNet and download a delicious 5-course meal anytime they pleased. Because that's the same.
I've got two big problems there.
Yeah.
One, it's just another straight up theft from The Matrix.
Is that 1999's The Matrix? Did that come out at a similar time as the 13th
Hour?
Floor and Existence?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you know about the 13th floor. But
Yeah.
Doesn't it make you feel good?
Ghosts.
Doesn't it make you feel good to
13
think
going on
about
30
that?
as well, if you think about it.
Oh my God. 13, that ride at Alton Towers. Yeah.
It's really good.
13 Reasons Why, of course, another of our favourites. No, so it's just a straight up rip off of that, where they literally just eat a protein, but they can go into the Matrix and eat nice food. But also, it's just, I think it's probably indicative of earnest politics, which I don't know, but I can guess.
Strong libertarian.
Yeah,
from
100%. But also just this idea that Wade, having like grown up in a trailer park that then fell on his arm, like suddenly is like, actually the poor are fine just having fuck all, so long as you jangle your keys loudly enough in front of them.
Especially after in this whole section, like what's weird about it tonally is this section is I'm a rich Chad and but poor people have to eat seaweed. It's like almost intentionally. Maybe it is like maybe that is going to be the point of the book. I doubt it.
Yeah.
The end has this very weird tone where it suddenly changes into like he was talking to camera the whole time, which has not been the case. And me, it's like when there's a freeze frame in the credits.
Record scratch.
And me, all my dreams have come true.
Wow.
I've gotten stupidly rich and absurdly famous.
Wade failing upwards again.
I'd fallen in love with my dream girl and she had fallen in love with me. Surely I was happy, right? Not so much.
Oh, what?
As this account will show, I was suddenly way out of my depth. What weird phrasing. Oh dear. Okay.
Sounds like he's reading it out to the court.
Yeah, it does. Maybe that's a decent guess. Could be.
No.
We're on chapter level 4.
Imagine, please, if you were on jury duty and someone was giving testimony and they were describing the history of, like, recounting something that happened, and they stopped to the and me? And me? I made loads of money off that jewel theft.
I'm chatting it up.
And I tell you what, I regret not a second of it.
Just to check in with chapters, we went cutscene 0000. Now we have level 4 followed by 0001. Level 4 is just one of those cool quotes that an author does, except this one's made up. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but let me just give you the gist. It's from Anorak's Almanac, which is like the book that Halliday wrote that gave people loads of clues to all the shit. And basically it's so
he's doing that thing where he didn't actually write this.
He's just giving the impression of having
written a quote.
I bet he claims to have written it.
I bet he does.
100%.
I bet he does.
The gist of this quote is that you are, your
he's
body...
He's got a whole file that's like broken down. And it's the 3 quotes he's written for this, and the rest of it's just like lore ipsum.
Pretty much. The key bit here is to win the video game of life, you just have to try and make the experience of being forced to play as pleasant as possible for yourself and for all the other players you encounter.
Well, that's a new metaphor.
Kira is his friend, that if everyone, maybe Kira's the person he's in love with, I'm not sure. If everyone played the game to win, it'd be a lot more fun for everyone. That's from... Do you know which bit of the almanac?
No.
Chapter 77, verses 11 to 20.
Wow, it's long.
So, 0001 begins. I'm going to fucking rattle through this. It's light on plot in one way, and also heavy
Join
on
the club.
nonsense. He wakes up in his Silicon Valley shack, and he's in a fantasy mansion. It was the mansion that Halliday owned, and he has to wait for the cooldown of his Oni. Like Marty McFly, I woke up at exactly 10:28 a.m. to the song Back in Time by Huey Lewis and the News. This was courtesy of my vintage flip clock radio, a Panasonic RC6015, the model Marty owns in the film. I'd had it modified to play the same song at the same time Marty hears it, after he finally makes it. Back to the Future. Very cool.
God, I hate it. And as well, like... and I'm sure that this will become a theme as we go through. In fact, I'm certain.
Yeah.
But we are not people who de facto believe in the conflation of author and protagonist.
Yeah, of course.
But we do believe that it's a really interesting correlation between authors and shit books.
Yeah.
Where actually that is 100% they are the same. And given that the first thing that Ernie did when he made all his money was buy a DeLorean.
Oh, fuck, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Like the fact that Wade here wakes up, quote, like Marty McFly, like only I woke up in the way only Marty McFly could have at 10:28 p.m. or what the fuck it is.
He reveals that this is fun. He bought the skyscrapers owned by IOI, the evil hitman corp from Ready Player One, and he turns them into, quote, free body locker hotels for the homeless.
Body Locker Hotels,
I
not
think
the
it's like
brand.
no, I think it's like a capsule hotel. It sort of asks the question, like, why not give the homeless
like Bender's apartment.
Yeah, it's like, why not give them a bigger room? But
Yeah, if you're taking 20% off of every single clip that's uploaded Ito,
Yeah.
and everyone and his mum is in there,
Yeah.
like living it up, doing paragliding and flying like Superman and biting down on their own tongues and
Yeah.
feeling fruit slide down their esophagus, while in the real world they starve to death on seaweed.
Yeah.
You might as well give them a fucking more than one by one to fucking do it in.
counterpoint, might as well not.
Might as well not. Might as well just
Might as
sit
well
there and
keep
do it.
all
Might as well
our
sit there
big
in my
profits.
fucking gold-plated eggs and fuck about, mightn't I? Might as well sit there, spending all my time and money developing one huge AI whose only job is to keep all gay sex off of the internet. Yeah, sure.
What happens next, which I'll summarise, it's a lot of fun. So if you do want to listen to the That's a Shame episode, it's episode like 197, 198 or something, where we went through this chapter. He's looking out the window of his big skyscraper office or house or whatever, fancy house. And conveniently, everything in his view is just stuff from the first book.
Stuff he's bought.
So, and what happens is he spots something and then he says why it's so important. So let me just give you a few examples.
So he just recaps the last book.
He's not even recapping it for plot purposes. He's recapping it for like building himself up purposes. It's got a big like Neil Strauss's The Game kind of vibe where it's like he's trying to big himself up. He's trying to like peacock.
In case we'd forgotten that he was
Yeah,
important.
yeah.
Even though he's God in this world.
This whole chapter is like big nice guy energy.
Is there like a government?
There is a government, but this is like post sort of government, international governmental collapse of some kind.
Right,
So I think
okay.
he's richer than the government.
So he just is.
As you will see later in the chapter, he pays off the US national debt in a remarkable decision.
What do you mean?
That really belies a poor understanding of international
he
capital
just
economy.
wrote a novelty check and handed it to Nixon's head in a jar.
Basically, just to give you a few examples, he can see the silhouette of a Hilton hotel that he was in for a very brief period in Ready Player One.
But just think, fan of Ready Player One that you are, when you read that,
I'd
and
love
you
to
thought
see it.
back to that
It made me
moment.
so excited.
Yeah.
It's a tourist attraction now. People buy tickets to see the tiny room that he locked himself away in while looking for the egg. The same is true about everything, including the Stacks, the trailer park he grew up in, the vertical trailer park that killed his nan, R.I.P., which he demolishes to build a memorial to his aunt, who was the one who got crushed. But he's a good guy, so he pays for all the inhabitants to be relocated. But if I remember correctly, I don't think I can find the quote, but he pays them to be relocated, but like quite like outside the city. He like gets them relocated really far away.
We're gonna pay you to just fuck off out of my eyesight,
so
like
funny.
behind this thing here, behind the ruins of the trailer
Just
park.
no reason for it. He's listing credentials.
He's managed to like hide the poor behind the
body locker.
fridge in which he keeps the homeless.
It's very, very mad.
Fucking hell.
He's constantly at the moment, like we're several pages deep into the chapter, and he's just listing all of this like stuff that he's already done and how much everyone loves it.
Yeah.
Whilst he's forgotten the concept of like the narrative,
Shard
the
riddle,
forward momentum. That
I
is
see.
entailed.
You were talking about Klein, and I was talking about Wade. Interesting.
Yeah, again,
one and the same.
His van gets airlifted to a museum.
What do you mean his van?
And
Why
at
did
that
he
point,
need a van?
They were being chased by IOI in the previous one. It was at that point.
Is this a real world van?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is.
Sorry, an Earl. In the Earl van.
Yeah, no, just an Earl van is fine. Earl van. There's a new character coming up, and you'll remember that this is a pretty fun one. Let me see if I can do it justice.
I do.
It's watchword irreverent. Watchword number 2.
One of my favorite. When Netflix is doing that little slideshow of like posters, when it says like witty, I'm like whatever. Dark, irreverent.
Hello.
Oh,
Get
here
that
we
on the
go,
list.
boy.
Top of the morning, Wade. A familiar voice.
Oh, that's a
stuttered
voice.
as I
He's doing a
stepped
voice,
into the
everyone.
bathroom. I glanced sideways to see Max, my long-suffering system agent software, smiling at me from the surface of the giant smart mirror above the sink. Sounds fucking haunting.
Now, remind me why he's called Max.
I'll continue reading.
Oh, okay.
Morning, Max, I muttered. What's up? The opposite of down, he replied. That was easy. Ask me another one. Go ahead.
He has slammed. Is he allowed to do that?
Yeah, he's sassy.
Is he allowed? Because like Wade could just have him
Wade
unplug.
He likes that about Max.
Oh, he's like a foil to the...
When I didn't respond, he made a heavy metal face, I don't know what that is, and started to play air guitar. I don't know how he does that if he's a smile in a mirror.
Yep.
While shouting, Wade's World, party time, excellent.
Wade's World, that's
funny.
like...
It's funny. I rolled my eyes in his direction and manually flushed the toilet for effect.
What? Oh.
Jeez, Max said. Tough crowd. Wake up on the wrong side of the coffin again today? He asks Max to start his morning playlist, and it specifies that This Must Be the Place, brackets naive melody by Talking Heads.
That's good, yeah.
And when he does, he says, Gracias, Max. And Max replies, this is fun, actually.
Go on. Okay, go.
Dinada, my little enchilada. Oh, it's fun. Oh. It was fun for me to say for the second time.
That was good, yeah. Like, I could see it in your eyes.
We learn now. You asked before, like, is there more to Max? And I know you love the character already, but I also know that you're a guy who loves to know that their love for something is founded in a kind of endless causal chain of references.
Yeah, well, that's it. Because that's what gives experience meaning.
Yeah, it's only good to do something or know something if it relates to something else.
When I watch something on the television, I feel nothing.
What episode of Rick and Morty is this like?
I feel nothing. But if I'm out, say I'm at the store, and I just hear like, you hear the ambient sound of conversation going on, and just like from somewhere, it's just like, come dine with me. I just like a big smile appears on my face because just hearing that allows me to experience the joy in a way that just watching it and knowing that I've had that experience never could.
It couldn't. We learned that Max is, like everything else Ernest has ever thought of, just cribbed from something different.
What's that?
It's Max Headroom version.
Oh.
Version, and this is a maths joke, so tell me if you don't get it. 3.1.4. It's the maths number. It's pi the math number.
Hang on. Is this not the second time in 3 chapters that we've had Max Headroom?
Yeah, well, it's a big deal.
It's a big reference.
We're always talking about it.
You can't move in any
day-to-day
flat
life
without references to Max Headroom.
In the Earl or Ito.
Yeah.
To be honest.
In the Ito. Oh.
Fuck, you fucked it again. Ernest at this point reveals himself to be a big I don't do current affairs kind of guy. Where he's
weird.
Like,
wait, hang on a minute. You mean the guy who just locked the homeless into like tiny cubes and had the poor had their homes demolished and paid them to move out to the sticks?
Look, this is a bit cynical, but he's going to make a joke about it, which I think you can enjoy. And it's quite relatable.
As long as he makes it funny, that's what really matters.
Max, he asks him, like, what's the news? Max read me the day's headlines as I dressed in my workout clothes. I told him to skip all the stories involving war, disease, or famine. So he started reading me the weather report.
I told him to... Oh, dear. I told him to skip all the things I could single-handedly end and move on to the one thing that I haven't yet paid to control.
Skipping ahead, we learn that he's named the mansion after some other bullshit of Parzival Arthurian legend stuff. He then just starts, which is a really wild image, just legging it around his house because he's put on AR goggles to make it look like he's in Indiana Jones's world. So he's just like sprinting around his house. I hate
this guy. He's just such a loser.
He's really
funny. Such a loser. Like
all of his stuff.
To be fair, like it somehow is like the most realistic aspect of Wade as a character is that like all of these like huge tech billionaires do seem to just be the most boring losers possible.
Yeah.
Like, so I suppose in a way that's right, but it's only because Klein clearly just thinks that he really wants to be Elon Musk, doesn't he?
Pretty much desperate. We're going to skip over, unfortunately, a chapter or a section involving all of the different cars detailed in his garage. That he never drives.
You're joking.
But suffice it to say, if you can think of a car from a movie, it was that one.
Okay, yeah. I'm thinking. I've got one.
He thinks now, apropos of nothing, that he hasn't seen Samantha, which is Artemis.
Lots of stuff in this book seems to happen apropos of nothing.
I guess that's how life is sometimes.
And then, interestingly, never come back again.
Yeah, it's weird. So he hasn't seen Samantha, who, you'll remember, he finds her super hot, even though she is conventionally attractive and has a birthmark. He manages to see through that because he's a hero. Guy.
He's the hero.
He hasn't seen her in 3 months, so he's anxious about seeing her avatar for their virtual meeting. And you're like, wow, I thought they were going out. 3 months seems a while.
Wow. Well, maybe she was like away doing some stuff. Maybe
we now flash back in another great example of pacing
to the last book, or
to the last book. Well, sort of inter-book moment, perhaps. I'm not quite sure.
there was like 1 second in between.
Literally 9 days. Yeah. This is an extract about when they first met in person. Before we met in the Earl, I'd already convinced myself that I'd fallen in love with her inside the Oasis, and in my own naive adolescent way, maybe I had.
Wow.
But when the two of us finally began to spend time together in reality, I fell in love with her all over again, and I fell much harder much faster the second time because our connection was now physical as well as psychological, the way nature originally intended. None of that M-M. Not only.
Adam and Eve, you'll find.
And this time she fell in love with me too, he says. She'd basically been like, not that into it because they were just Digimon, basically. But eventually, when the real world, Digimon. He says, once she and I started touching each other, we found it difficult to stop.
Clearly not, because she fucking dumped you a week later.
We lost our virginity to each other 3 days after that first kiss. Then we spent the rest of that week sneaking off to make the beast with two backs at every opportunity.
Fuck off! He does not actually say the beast.
And then he ends with this classic Kleinism, like Depeche Mode. We just couldn't get enough.
Oh no! That's so bad.
And then...
That's like... you know what? I think that there's a chance that he's reached a point now where he thinks of a normal sentence
and then intentionally
he types it into Google and picks the first thing that comes up. That's why Max Headroom's come up twice.
It's funny you should mention because I actually cut off the last line. So let me just give you that final chunk again. Once we started touching each other, blah, 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 we lost our virginity to each other. It was fucking hot. Then we spent the rest of that week sneaking off to make the beast with two backs at every opportunity. Like Depeche Mode, we just couldn't get enough. Og's estate was designed to resemble Rivendell from the Lord of the Rings films.
What?
It just comes out of nowhere. What? There's no chapter delineation. That's all of the point. Very cool.
Sure, okay.
Everything now is described to be expensive. He mentions that Og has a private runway that he's living in.
What's Og? Oh, he's the
other co-founder of the company. Yeah.
He's been super cocked
he
by
didn't
this
want to be
whole
there, to be fair. This is the last time that he and Samantha kiss, which is when they say goodbye to each other on this private runway.
Better to have loved and lost.
And the problem is she gets kind of pissed off about the Oni and about just giving this technology away for, without considering the possible dangers. And it's got a big women, what are they like kind of vibe.
No.
Throughout.
Wait, hang on.
Go on.
Ernest wrote that.
Weirdly. I mean, everyone slips sometimes.
Yeah, okay.
Half the world already spends every waking moment ignoring reality inside the oasis. We already peddle the opiate of the masses and now you want to up the dosage? I roll my eyes and shake my head. I can feel my adrenaline rising. That's total bullshit, Artie.
Oh,
and you know it, I say.
He's got her.
We could turn off the oasis tomorrow and it wouldn't solve any of humanity's problems. It would just rob people of the only escape they have. He says that the headsets would prevent... Oh my God, I forgot about this bit. They have this argument about, the ethics of the Oni, which have already been decided.
Yeah. The vote's already done, yeah.
And he makes this very weird argument that I think she... correctly
I remember this.
Is fuck this guy, because not only is it so insensitive, it's just nonsense. He tries to make the claim that she shouldn't be against the Oni because it would have stopped her parents dying of flu. And now because of that she doesn't love him anymore.
Yeah, well, you know what? Good on her. Good for her.
Of course I understand its potential, you idiot, Samantha shouts. She looks around the table.
Of course I understand its anti-flu potential.
Haven't any of you rewatched The Matrix lately?
Why?
Or Sword Art Online?
Has he forgotten some stuff? He's literally only mentioned two things.
Yeah. We now finally, 27 pages into the chapter, reference the Shard riddle again, only to immediately go away from it to go into some more bigging oneself up, being I'm a good guy. He pays off the national debt of the US. You may remember he provides an aerial defence drone system and tactical telebots to help re-establish the rule of law in rural areas. So he's just monitoring people in the sticks.
So far, his list of achievements, having become ruler of the whole world, is continued the experiment where people have been press ganged into giving up their bodies to potentially fatal surgeries.
Yeah.
He has put the homeless in tiny little rectangles like they're some sort of Tetris piece.
Yeah.
He has demolished his own old home
community
and moved them out of his eye line into the sticks somewhere. And he's he's paid off the US national debt. Fine.
Now he's doing panopticon
doesn't reel
stuff.
He's bought drones to go around and shoot dissenters, and he's banned being gay online.
Yeah. Now this bit's huge. This is where Ernest, not content to kind of tread too similar territory to RP1, he hits us with a curveball, and it's one fucking hell of a curveball because. Quite honestly, I didn't see this coming, and it's almost like neither did Ernest, because it feels like a real afterthought.
He did not.
Basically, Wade's theory is that the Earth is too full. It's got 10 billion people, and he's talking about pollution, and he says the cool line. This is pretty cool. You can imagine smoking. We made our bed. Now we were going to die in it. Whoosh. It's pretty cool.
So sorry. Add to the list of achievements. Become Thanos. In within like 2 years.
And this is the paragraph that last time we talked about it. I said that every sentence gets crazier and crazier in scale and in conflict and narrative potential.
Cool. Here we go.
That was why I was still working on my backup plan. The one I'd shared with Samantha that first night we met. Over the past 3 years, I'd funded the construction of a small, nuclear-powered interstellar spacecraft in low Earth orbit. It housed a self-sustaining biosphere which could provide long-term living space and life support for a crew of up to 24 passengers, including H and Shoto, who are the other members of the gang, who had joined me in footing the enormous construction bill. I'd christened my ship the Vonnegut, like my old Firefly-class spaceship in the Oasis, which I'd named after my favourite author. Probably had to be edited out brackets Kurt Vonnegut. An editor striking that. I think I get this one.
I think they know. They're not going to be confusing for Bill Vonnegut.
The plan is to travel the stars for 47 years and then start looking for a habitable planet with 24 people and a legion of frozen embryos. We've been accepting embryo donations for over a year by this point from every country around the world with the hope of ensuring genetic diversity.
But like under what pretense?
Hard to know. We need to get more embryos in the Oasis.
We're running some new experiments.
After much debate over what we should call our new virtual realm, he's referring to like the Oasis they take with them on the ship. We finally agreed upon the name Arcadia, except the second A is an at. So it's Arcadia, kind of.
I fucking love that, like, he's literally like, he can't get on the spaceship without, like, he's literally on a spaceship. Why do you need... Oh,
it was H's idea to replace the A in the middle with an at sign, to give the name a elite flourish and help distinguish it from the geographic region in central Greece, the Duran Duran side project, the city on Gallifrey, the alternate plane of reality in Dungeons and Dragons, and all the other Arcadias.
He just Googled Arcadia. He literally Googled Arcadia and wrote down.
The addition of the at was also fitting because, as H put it, Arcadia will be where it's at. The ship is a year from being done, and that sets us up for a time frame, a kind of timeline. We concealed the details of the Vonnegut project from the world and from Samantha for as long as we could, but eventually word of what we were up to leaked to the press. Of course, Samantha was furious when she found out we'd spent over $300 billion to build a ship to escape our dying planet instead of using that money and manpower to help her try to save it.
To maybe give the homeless another square footage. Also, I assume they also, at that point, got some like angry emails from people who'd sent in their ex, wondering why he was running off to space with them.
I told her we were saving a spot for her on the Vonnegut's crew, but you can imagine how that went over. Women. She stormed
What
out.
Are they like?
Then she crucified us in the press.
All you do is betray humanity and say that she killed her parents by not letting people have VR goggles. And suddenly,
I just have to read the last part in full. She accused us of sabotaging humanity by releasing the Oni to the masses and then using the profits to build a lifeboat to save our own skin. But I didn't see it that way. We admired Samantha's optimism, and maybe on a good day even shared in it. But with Earth teetering on the brink of destruction, leaving our eggs in one basket was foolish. We had to take them to space. Sending a small contingent of humanity out into space was the only responsible thing to do. And at this precarious moment in history, we were the only 3 people on this planet with the resources to do it. Thus concludes the first 3 chapters of Big Bad Book Season 1's special tome, Ready Player 2.
Wow. That was... It was something to hear again.
It was challenging.
Let me tell you.
Challenging to get through.
Yeah, it's weird. I suppose in a strange way it's good because I'm actually kind of desperate for something that I haven't heard.
2 weeks' time.
And it really is the only way that I could be excited about another chapter of Ready Player 2.
Now, I think we have a little feature that we're going to start doing either at the middle or the end. We don't know yet. This is the first one we've ever done.
It's great.
Declan found a review of Ready Player 2 because it's important that we diversify the voices on the show and hear from people who like the book, people who were indifferent to it. Our hope is to get guests on in future as well to share these chapters with.
100%,
to burden them with and sort of share the load in that sense.
Yeah.
But what did you find and where did you find it?
So I went over to Goodreads for this one. I do like reading Goodreads reviews much more than I like reading regular, by which I mean sort of like newspaper reviews or established reviews, just because I know that there's no axes being ground, are there? There's people, honest Joes, putting their opinion out there, and
like
some love it, some hate it,
and they're not afraid to tell you.
And you can sort, can't you? You can sort by the good and the bad.
Helpful.
And I thought I'd go, because it's episode 1, I'd look for a 5, so someone who liked the
a bit of counterpoint to this endless attack.
I do feel like, I mean, we did say we were going to be fair, and I feel like we did try to be fair, but I do also feel that being fair meant that we were really horrible about it. Because it
is fairly terrible.
Because it's a big bad book.
Fucking works, isn't it?
But yeah, so I've found this review. This is a 5-star review from a user called Cami.
Yeah.
And Cami said thusly, I appear to be in the minority, but I loved Ready Player 2, even more than Ready Player 1.
Wow.
The 1980s illusions were more mainstream pop culture, and I'm not going to spoil for you what they are.
Don't.
But they are more mainstream.
Okay.
So I could relate to them more. And I liked that there were more quests for Wade and his friends to complete. Brackets 7 instead of 3. Which is
it's a purely mathematical preference here.
If anyone can recommend a book where there's more than 7 things to do.
Premise 1, quests are good.
Yeah.
Premise 2, 7 is more than 3. Very good.
If yes to both. Not being a gamer myself, I'd never thought of the video game / life comparison, but it definitely works on all levels, brackets, pun intended.
Fucking yes.
Life is like a video game, always encountering new levels. Just keep playing.
Wow, that's really beautiful words actually from Cami. And, you know, to each their own. Although the premise of this show is that we are attacking books that we think are bad, by no means do I think that you can't enjoy Ready Player 2. I think it's... I mean, I've sort of enjoyed reading it. I'm enjoying it through the lens of this will be funny to talk about and like sort of mild bewilderment that it got published.
Yeah.
But if you enjoy it for the story, fine. I think the story is fine in Ready Player 1. And I think it's important for us to separate that out, right?
No, like, you know, we like everyone. Like, I enjoy...
I like a lot of shit stuff.
Yeah, I like a lot of
objective nonsense.
I will sit and I will talk your ear off about how I think National Treasure is one of the best films ever made. I will do that.
That's going to be an episode.
And you will be there again.
Oh, God.
Like, I think it's great to just love things, to just put them on and enjoy them. But also, I think the main reason here is that I know in my heart that Ernest Cline thinks that this is really good,
the best thing ever,
and I want there to be at least one record out there taking apart kind of piece by piece exactly why I don't think it is.
And that's Big Bad Books, episode 1.
Wow.
I was thinking, just as you were talking, that we don't have anything we say at the end formalised, but I guess we should do some plugs. Shame.city is our Shame City, that's like the production studios for this podcast, where we have 2 shows at the moment, 3 announced, more on the way. And yeah, shame.city is the URL. If you'd like to share this show, it would be super helpful because we're brand new. Shame.city/books is a good link that will take people to subscribe to it anywhere, on all platforms. And also, if you leave us a review, that would be so
that'd be
good.
Really, really helpful.
Because you have like a narrow window when you first post a podcast of like being in this new and noteworthy category, and the more reviews, the better. bbb@shame.city is our email address, where we'll be accepting recommendations for things to read.
Yeah,
your thoughts, which we will read out. We'll be reading out anything we receive. Not anything, but most things. And
don't push it.
Also, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, if you've got opinions and a mic,
100%.
Yeah, come along. The floor is open. The more the merrier. Absolutely. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, next time we're going to have the next chapter,
which I assume is going to be called 0002, but it's anyone's guess.
Yeah, could be anything, really. And it'll just be the one, so hopefully it will be a slightly less frenetic episode. We'll also have another review. We'll have any emails that we may or may not have received. Yep. Maybe I'll write one if we don't.
Yeah, I'd be really sad if we don't. I'll fucking cry.
And we'll also have a kind of interim feature in which I'll be going through the beginning of a fun interview that Cline has given,
very nice.
Which I think sheds some really interesting light on some of the topics that we've discussed.
Is that our feature, Breath of the Author?
Sure thing.
I don't know why it should be, but I just like the name.
Why not? Yeah.
We've got stuff over at shame.city/Discord. You can find us on Twitch. All of our links are available.
If you want links to the rest of the stuff that we do, at Shame City Gang on Twitter is a big one as well.
We've got a big link tree.
Yeah, shame.city/Twitch if you want to see us every day.
Hey, thanks so much for checking out this podcast. I hope it goes well. I hope it did go well.
God,
I can't really tell yet.
No.
But we are in this for the long haul. We're going to do a whole season of this.
Whether you like it or whether we like it or not.
Until episode the next one. I've been Isaac. You've been.
I've been Declan.
Keep on reading.
Bye, guys.